From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Piling on the tariffs and China responds. How long will farmers support the president? Combine's role on what looks like a record crop. The big question now, do we have enough room?
I'm Michelle Rook. Grain storage is a premium at harvest here in the Western Corn Belt. With low grain prices, a big crop, poor basis, and the ongoing trade war. I'll have details coming up.
In agribusiness, gauging the 2018 cotton crop.
What are you thinking with quality this year?
I think cotton quality is going to be a lot better this year.
Texas Farm Bureau in the middle of a political and social debate.
This is not a judgment. This is not a social statement.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon. How high could U.S. tariffs held against Chinese goods go in this trade feud? It seems to be headed towards $500 billion. That after China responded to the latest tariff assessment. China announced Tuesday it would impose another $60 billion worth of tariffs on U.S. products shipped into that country. The retaliation followed Monday's announcement that the U.S. was escalating the trade spat by another $200 billion. On top of that, the president hinted last week that he may hit China with an additional $267 billion in tariffs. When you add up the previous tariffs already in place, plus these new threatened tariffs, the U.S. will have imposed $517 billion in tariffs against the Asian trading partner. That amount surpasses the $505 billion worth of U.S. goods that China imported in 2017. The president threatening to hit back if China targets politically potent U.S. agricultural products for counter tariffs. In a tweet Tuesday, the president saying, quote, there will be great and fast economic retaliation against China if our farmers, ranchers, and/or industrial workers are targeted. In a second tweet, the president said, quote, China has openly stated that they are actively trying to impact and change our election by attacking our farmers, ranchers, and industrial workers because of their loyalty to me. Farmers are responding to the news.
But I do support the president and what he's trying to accomplish. I look back a little farther than just the last couple of years with what China's done. I mean, they've embargoed ethanol, they've embargoed distiller grain, they manipulated the market, in my mind, with the Syngenta corn situation to benefit them and to drive prices down. And anyway, I look back a little farther and I see those things, and those things have always bothered me.
As long as the end game is to have free markets, free trade, no tariffs from anybody, I like it. I don't see any other way to get rid of the tariffs that China has on our goods except for putting tariffs on their goods. So I'm still hopeful that in the end it'll turn out great. I'm still supportive of what's going on as long as in the end there are no tariffs anywhere.
The pork industry also responding to the news.
We support the administrative efforts to make all trade fair, right? We also want to make them aware that as pork producers, we are the tip of the spear. We depend and rely on exports because nearly a third of the U.S. production leaves our borders. And we rely on that for our economic success and viability, and we would just urge the administration and support them in their efforts to make trade fair. We just urge them to get it done and return to economic profitability in rural America.
The ongoing trade war has had a devastating impact on the grain markets. However, for soybean farmers in the Western Corn Belt, they're hit especially hard due to their dependence on the Chinese market. This, combined with a projected record crop in states like Nebraska, means farmers will be storing more grain than ever, hoping and waiting for better prices. Michelle Rook talked to farmers at Husker Harvest Days about the storage crunch.
Farmers here in the Western Corn Belt are feeling a storage crunch at harvest with big yields, lower grain prices, and historically wide basis levels due to the ongoing trade war. In fact, basis normally runs 70 cents to $1 for soybeans in Nebraska, but is now historically wide and will get worse at harvest.
Bad as it's ever been. $1.40 for me on new crop, which I think my worst before that was $1.20. I think my local market basis is $1.22. So, $7 beans aren't going to pay too many bills.
Since most of the beans in Nebraska go to China, some elevators aren't even bidding because of the uncertainty of the trade war.
They can bid, but I don't think anybody's selling. So, I've heard of a few taking bids away.
And other elevators have also stopped writing DP or deferred pricing contracts.
I guess I understand why. They tie up a lot of storage, and they're going to, I guess, make as much as they can on this basis too.
So farmers like Doug Sadoff have no choice but to store, and the market is signaling storage as well.
Just going to tuck it away in our bins as best we can. Even the beans we can't store, we'll store in town. I think we'll even pay in, whatever, a nickel a month.
It looks like soybeans are the crop to store this year, and hope for some type of trade agreement that will help bring some more certainty back to the marketplace and narrow that basis up and create some demand for us.
Keep reading about more interest in marketing loans this year than we've seen in probably decades, and unfortunately those prices that loans are based on were established back almost 20 years ago.
As a result, farmers have put up more long-term storage and are even trying to get bins put up yet this fall.
There's been a few gone up. We put up 100,000 bushel storage here this fall, late summer, so not enough, obviously.
Well, I would say that demand is up probably 50%, where it was last year at this time because of the, so much corn being stored already.
Others will pile corn on the ground or use temporary storage, and that's why these bagging units have been so hot at shows.
Very popular. It doesn't seem like we can keep them enough around. A lot of interest in here today at Husker Harvest and all the other shows. People are looking for alternative storage.
So storage will be at a premium until something changes to improve grain prices.
Every year has its challenges. This is another challenge that we're not necessarily used to, but we're going to have to find a way to work around it.
So hopefully we get through harvest, maybe a trade deal get worked out, and then things will start to improve.
In Grand Island, Nebraska, I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
Mike Hoffman joining us now with a look at crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Betsy. We're starting off in South Bend, Indiana. Jeff Peterson still has a solid 10 days or more before harvest begins in his area. Farmers here planted as late as June. He says there was not a shortage of growing degree days, which has been a big help to mature a late crop. USDA says 7% of the state's corn crop has already been harvested above the 5-year average. And Dara Entwistle in New Holland, Illinois says Reese and, quote, the kids are getting ready to do evening cattle chores. Can't beat a night doing chores with man's best friend. The USDA drought monitor shows pastures aren't too dry in the state. 3% of Illinois is considered abnormally dry. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, going to be kind of windy in the plains today. Not that that's unusual or anything, but by later in the day from Texas across Kansas and parts of the west, seeing some pretty good winds. We'll slacken things off a little bit as we head toward morning, but still kind of breezy upper Mississippi Valley into Kansas, and it just turns windier across the plains, even into parts of Wyoming and Montana as we head through the afternoon. We'll have your forecast coming up in a few minutes, but first here are some hometown temps.
Keeping track of the shifting market prices has never been so easy. Get the latest commodity prices sent directly to your cell phone with market updates. Just text Markets8 to 31313 to get started.
The Texas Farm Bureau finding itself in the middle of a media maelstrom stemming from a controversial ad campaign by sportswear maker Nike. As you probably know, Nike hired ex-NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick to be the face of a new campaign. It showcases him kneeling on the sidelines during the national anthem. According to the Texas Farm Bureau, some of their employees took heat from farmer members for wearing Nike apparel, which also included the Farm Bureau logo. In order to take the politics out of the wardrobe malfunction, Texas Farm Bureau has decided to phase out that gear.
Our employees are free to wear Nike apparel without Texas Farm Bureau logos of any kind if it is within our dress code. This is not a political statement on our behalf. This is not a judgment. This is not a social statement. We have members on both sides of this issue, so we have simply made the business decision to take our companies out of the controversy.
Cook says Texas Farm Bureau has been phasing out shirts that are co-branded with other companies like Nike and are moving to apparel that only shows the Texas Farm Bureau logo. When we come back, we're talking cotton in Texas. How's the crop shaping up and what can we expect this harvest season? Tyne Morgan has analysis from Lubbock. Plus, what makes you deathly afraid? Spiders? Snakes? Find out what technology might help you conquer those fears.
Advice, information, ideas, and more. If it's Ag Tech, it's in the Tech Tool Shed, your unbiased, one-stop source for everything Ag Tech.
The Texas cotton harvest is now underway with 22% in bales or at the gin so far. That's ahead of the 5-year average. 37% of bolls have opened, slightly ahead of the average pace. As Tyne Morgan discovered in this morning's analysis, Texas cotton harvest could run until Christmas.
Here now with Glenn Ritchie. He's with the Plant and Soil Sciences at Texas Tech University. And Glenn, I know you study cotton a lot. Last year we really had some quality issues when it came to the mic side of the cotton equation. What are you thinking with quality this year?
I think cotton quality is going to be a lot better this year. Last year we had a lot of cool, wet weather, and the crop just never really decided it wanted to shut down. A lot of the cotton didn't really terminate until we froze, and as a result the fiber quality was just terrible. We had poor maturity, and that really turned into poor quality cotton when we send it to spin. This year we've had a lot hotter, a lot drier weather, and the rate things are going, I anticipate that we're going to have very good cotton quality and a lot more mature cotton fibers this year.
So we know that this crop was stressed from the beginning, though, with the lack of moisture. Did that help the crop? You know, stressing it, did it get stressed at the right time, or did it get stressed at the wrong times this year?
Boy, stress is always a challenging thing to deal with. Certainly, if you get stressed at the wrong time, you can pay for it in terms of cotton quality. The big thing this year was we had hot, dry weather from the beginning, and what we found is prior to flowering, that's not going to hurt our quality at all. Now, as we rolled into July and August, and we still have these high temperatures, that is potentially going to have some effect, but the cotton acclimated itself pretty well, and at least what we're seeing so far looks like we're in reasonably good shape with the fiber quality.
Reasonably good shape with fiber quality, but this crop around here looks really immature. Do you think harvest will be late for cotton?
I think for the most part, harvest is going to be a little bit early.
Okay.
We've planted a lot of late cotton, which is going to throw a little bit of a wrench in that. But all of the cotton that was planted in May is about ready to be defoliated. I would anticipate you're going to start to see cotton strippers start running within potentially about the next 3 to 4 weeks. And because we planted a lot of late cotton, they may be running all the way to Christmas again.
Wow, so we could really see an extended harvest period.
Yes, I think so. And the big reason is not so much because of the weather this year, but because people were really trying to get in with those planting rains, and that extended the planting over about a 1.5-month period.
Right, so waiting on moisture in order to get in the field to plant this year.
Exactly.
I got it. So that's why harvest will be extended. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll have a check of weather right here on Ag Day.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, the Corn Belt is seeing some rain, something you don't necessarily want to see this time of year. How long will this last? Because it's going to delay harvest a little bit.
I think 2-3 days, maybe even a little bit more in the upper Midwest, Western Corn Belt. Those are the areas we're concerned about. This is one of those situations where a very slow-moving, northward-moving warm front is going to produce lots of complexes of thunderstorms. A lot of them occur at night. Those can be big rainmakers. So let's put the maps into motion. It's pretty humid south of the front, but north of it, where you have that lifting air up over the cooler air to the north, we do get these complexes of thunderstorms. You can see that as we head through the day today. Scattered stuff in the southwest, not too much elsewhere. A little bit of hit and miss stuff in Florida. Then as we head through the nighttime hours tonight, new complexes develop back in South Dakota, parts of Minnesota, into southern Wisconsin as we head toward morning. Areas of showers and thunderstorms back into Montana as well. And actually, we're seeing a little bit of a disturbance here coming northward. Probably should have put an area of low pressure there on my map. And that's continuing some of that moisture even into the morning hours in the desert southwest. And that's going to be some decent moisture. That's got some tropical nature to it. That's going to be feeding up along this front. So showers and thunderstorms along the cold front. large areas of thunderstorms ahead of the warm front, but the warm front is finally lifting northward by late in the day tomorrow, so we'll be talking about the northern Great Lakes back into North Dakota by that point. Precipitation estimate past 24 hours. The remnants of Florence finally moving away out of New England, and you can see a complex already occurred parts of the northern Mississippi Valley. And look at the amounts our computer model putting down 4 or 5 inches of rain. Parts of that area over a 2.5-day period from northern Illinois, northeastern Iowa, back across southern portions of Minnesota. So some of those areas could get a lot of rain, and that could really start to delay things. Temperatures across that front, big difference. Highs from the 90s south of it to the 60s north of it, where it's probably raining. And then you can see as we head through tonight, low temperature is going to stay very muggy from Iowa, Illinois, southward. A lot cooler to the north. Low 48 in Bismarck, so cooler temperatures coming into the northern Rockies, northern plains, and that kind of continues tomorrow. The heat actually makes some inroads farther north. Here's the jet stream. You can see the ridge. That's what's pumping up that warm air, but we do have it kind of cut back across the Great Lakes in the northeast as we head through the weekend, but the ridge builds back up next week with a big trough developing out west. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Sandpoint, Idaho, first of all, cool with a mix of clouds and sunshine, high of 66. Mason City, Iowa, periods of rain, maybe a thunderstorm, high of 78. And Decatur, Alabama, lots of sunshine, hot and humid, high around 93.
Up next, the latest numbers on Wisconsin's dairy industry. How many are calling it quits? Plus, see how a tool used in gaming systems may help you overcome phobias that are so bad they give you the sweats.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
NAFTA talks are scheduled to pick up again today in Washington as chief negotiators from the U.S. and Canada are set to continue talks. Canadian Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland arrived at the Capitol yesterday. According to Bloomberg sources, Freeland is set to meet with U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer today. The teams are facing an end-of-the-month deadline set up by President Trump. The president intends to sign a new version of NAFTA with Mexico in about 10 days, but the specific date is uncertain at this point. The president has threatened to proceed without Canada, which is the #1 buyer of U.S. goods. According to Bloomberg News, Canada seems to be offering concessions on dairy policies and other issues, but in return, they want to preserve certain parts of the original deal, including anti-dumping dispute panels. The U.S. dairy industry is on track to see the largest decline of dairy farms since 2013, and America's dairyland in Wisconsin is especially hard hit. 429 Wisconsin dairy farms have called it quits since the beginning of the year. The state lost 47 during the month of August alone. 44 were closed in July and 54 in June. Now there are only 8,400 licensed dairy farms in the state. Scared of spiders? Afraid to fly? Next, find out how video game technology can help you overcome those phobias.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota's M7060, built to get the job done. See KubotaUSA.com or your local Kubota dealer for more information.
A lot of us have phobias, a fear of something. Perhaps it's heights, or snakes, or spiders. In this era of virtual reality, it appears there's a high-tech way to break you of those fears. A growing number of therapists are using virtual reality to help patients overcome their fears. Researchers have been using the technology for 20 years, but it's now reaching the mainstream. VR therapy can help people by exposing them gradually to their greatest terrors. For patients with true phobias, they have a fight or flight response. They get sweaty and their heart races.
It is dramatic. At the heart of fear of heights, people have these ideas that something bad is going to happen, that they're going to fall off, or the buildings collapse, or they're going to jump off. And what we do in the therapy is help people to learn that that won't happen around heights. So if you change those thoughts, it leads to changes in the real world.
Fear of spiders and other phobias are thought to affect more than 1 in 10 American adults. Here's what the VR stimulation looks like. You can see the creepy spider on the counter, and the patient is using a tool, like a spatula, to take control of the spider. The patient, let's call her Betsy, for example, is pushing the 8-legged creature towards the sink which happens to be full of water. Lo and behold, the spider is swept away. Experts predict people with mild phobias will one day be able to treat themselves successfully at home. Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For Mike Hoffman and all of us at AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Have a great day.